Today, we're plunging into something really quite valuable, I think. It's a collection of personal observations and reflections, sort of life lessons that you've generously shared with us.
Yeah, like a distillation of wisdom, you could say, for navigating, well, modern life.
Exactly. All its complexities, the messy bits, the good bits.
Right. And these notes, they cover so much human nature, relationships, finding strength.
Peace, success, all of it. So our mission, really, is to sift through these points.
Find the most impactful ideas.
Yeah, and try to understand what they're suggesting collectively about living well today.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So the first thing that, really jumps out is how much they focus on just living, learning from experience itself.
Definitely feels like lessons learned the hard way sometimes. Etched through experience, as you said.
Absolutely. And, well, right at the top, there's this powerful idea about value.
Oh, yeah.
It says very clearly, time and breath are more precious than wealth.
Wow. Okay, that really flips the script on a lot of modern thinking, doesn't it? It really does. I mean, we often measure success in money, right?
Yeah.
But putting time, even just breathing, above that, it's a huge reorientation.
Because they're non-renewable. You can lose money, maybe get it back, but time, a breath, once it's gone, it's gone.
Exactly, which immediately pushes you towards valuing, the present.
The notes mention letting go of past worries, not dwelling on the future.
Right, because worrying about what you can't change, it achieves, well, nothing. Zero.
Yeah, precisely. And this focus on the present, it's not passive. It's tied right into action.
Like the idea that talent is useless without practice and kai.
Pushish effort, attempt, that's critical, isn't it? It's not just having potential.
You've got to apply it. Effort turns potential into something real. Potential on its own is just, well, potential.
And that other reflection about starting something now because time won't wait.
That follows directly, right?
Yeah.
If time's your most precious currency, procrastinating is like throwing away your wealth.
So for you listening right now, how does this actually land? In your busy life, with all the focus on future goals, past mistakes.
How does focusing on this moment, this breath, the effort you can make right now, how does that help you cut through the noise?
What happens when you really view time as your most valuable asset? It's a big shift.
It is. Now, moving from that internal value, the notes also have some pretty stark things to say about dealing with other people.
Yeah, there's a strong current of caution there about relationships, about trust. It's quite noticeable.
Definitely a thread of wariness, like the observation about people changing, how frustrating that can be.
When you thought you knew someone, and that really challenging quote, strangers becoming better than one's own.
Ooh, that one hits hard. It speaks to disappointment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where you expected loyalty, maybe from family or close friends, and didn't get it.
Raises difficult questions about where trust lies and what happens when the closest people let you down. The notes don't really pull punches here.
No, they don't. Suggesting you remove selfish people, not just from your phone contacts, but from your life.
That feels less like advice and more like a lesson learned through pain.
Totally. And the cynicism, it kind of deepens with that idea of people having calculators in their chests.
Right. Calculating the benefits before they even interact with you paints a picture of a very transactional world.
Which leads straight into the idea of trust itself. The notes call it the most expensive thing.
Takes a lifetime to build.
And just a moment to lose. And the point about people winning your trust completely, then breaking it.
Yeah, that suggests a specific, maybe common pattern of betrayal after real connection's been made. It's brutal.
So this collection of thoughts, it seems to be wrestling with this painful paradox. Trust is vital, yet so fragile.
And easily shattered, often by those you'd least expect.
Right. And there's even the perspective that being too trusting, too honest just makes you vulnerable.
Well, frustratingly, you see dishonest people seemingly get ahead sometimes.
Exactly. That observation that people who speak truth can break relationships while liars maintain them, that really throws it into sharp relief.
It suggests maybe we sometimes prefer comfortable lies over difficult truths. Makes being genuine feel risky.
So given all these, well, challenging observations, the risk of trust, the potential for hurt, these transactional vibes, how do you approach new connections?
How do you decide who to let in? And how do you balance that necessary caution with our basic human need for connection? It's a tricky path.
Definitely. And following that thread, the notes get into some really fascinating, sometimes uncomfortable paradoxes about honesty and deception.
This is where it gets really interesting, I think, because it challenges some common sayings.
Like what?
Like the idea that the world doesn't necessarily respect the naive, honest, and straightforward person.
Ah, right. It actually suggests you might get pushed down if you're too yielding.
That's a pretty stark contrast to honesty is the best policy, isn't it?
It is. It seems to argue that, in practice, honest people might not always be valued.
Well, maybe dishonest ones are sometimes better liked. Not endorsing it, just observing social dynamics.
Yeah, it's a cynical observation about who gets popular or seems to succeed. It forces you to think about outward likability versus actual integrity.
The notes mention the difference between a wise person whose mind works and a foolish one whose tongue works.
Implying that maybe lots of talk or charm doesn't equal depth.
Right, and that sharp point that someone liked by everyone might be clever and insincere. Ouch.
That's a potent warning. Popularity isn't character.
But what's fascinating is the counterpoint that comes up. Amidst all this difficulty with being straightforward.
The notes also say silence can be powerful.
Exactly. And knowing when to be silent is a mark of real wisdom.
So it's not just about truth versus lies, but about strategic discernment, knowing when and how to speak or not speak.
It seems like it. And then there's that really uncomfortable self-reflection moment.
Which one?
That lying feels okay when you do it, but makes you furious when others do it.
Ah, yes. Highlights our own hypocrisy, our double standards. Beautifully put, but yeah, painful.
So how do you navigate this if pure honesty isn't always rewarded, according to these notes?
How do you decide when to speak the hard truth and when maybe silence or a more careful approach is wiser?
Not wiser out of insincerity, maybe, but out of discernment.
It's definitely not presented as black and white here. It's complex.
Okay, so amidst all this focus on the external world relationship, social dynamics, there's also a really strong theme about building inner strength. Self-reliance.
Yes, it feels like a direct response, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If the outside world is uncertain, your inner world needs to be solid.
There's that advice to learn to enjoy being alone.
Rooted in that pragmatic truth, no one will always be with you. It's not about being lonely, is it?
No, it's about cultivating contentment in your own company, finding your own center.
Which is crucial because the notes also say point blank. Your life is in your hands, so don't expect others to make it better.
Puts the responsibility for your own happiness squarely on you.
And that strength, that agency, it's often forged in tough times, right? The idea that someone who hasn't faced difficulty won't know their own strength.
Challenges aren't just obstacles. They reveal who you are. They teach you.
There's that really poignant, almost stoic image. Crying indoors but smiling when opening the door.
Yeah, keeping true feelings private sometimes suggests needing a protective inner space, maybe not broadcasting vulnerability everywhere.
Processing internally before presenting externally.
And linking back to relationships, the thought that sometimes being alone makes you happier than being with the wrong people, that reinforces the value of solitude.
Absolutely. It underlines the importance of boundaries. The notes imply that if self-respect is on the line,
Ending relationships might be necessary for self-preservation, to keep that inner strength intact.
So the question for you, the listener, becomes, how can you cultivate that self-reliance?
What steps can you take to genuinely enjoy your own company? Build that inner foundation.
So your happiness isn't totally dependent on others. What does finding strength within yourself actually mean to you?
These notes also dig into the difference between acting from wisdom and just getting swept away by emotion.
Yeah, it's put pretty bluntly. Someone who gets carried away by emotions, ignoring wisdom, is easily fooled.
Emotions are valid, of course, but they can definitely cloud your judgment, lead you down the wrong path.
What's interesting is how some bad experiences get reframed through this lens of wisdom.
How so?
Well, the idea that people changing, even if it hurts, ultimately helps you become more cautious.
Ah, the note that says, good that people changed. It made us careful.
Exactly. It turns hurt into a lesson. A difficult one, maybe, but valuable. Shifting from just feeling the emotion to adopting a wiser, more careful approach going forward.
And the reflection that feelings themselves change, not just love or hate, but their intensity, their nature, that points to emotions being maybe unreliable as your only guide.
Right. Wisdom seems to offer something more stable, a better framework for decisions.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the notes paint. It's a world that's not always straightforward.
Things aren't always what they seem. Requires moving beyond just gut feelings or initial emotional reactions.
Towards a more considered, maybe even guarded perspective, guided by wisdom.
And this ties into some of those broader philosophical points scattered throughout.
Like acknowledging death is inevitable.
Defining courage as fighting despite fear, not having no fear.
The weight of repaying favors Asan.
And the idea that a good heart, the willingness to help, is more important than just having money if you actually want to make a difference.
And of course, that simple but profound thought, happiness isn't out there in a marketplace.
It's not something you buy. It's found within yourself.
So what does this suggest about your own search for happiness? Or just understanding the world?
When you're faced with a decision, a tough situation, how can you consciously pause, apply wisdom, apply discernment?
Instead of just being driven by that first wave of emotion?
It really feels like so many of these insights, these bits of wisdom, come directly from just watching life unfold, observing people.
Yeah, highlighting the huge value of experience of perspective gained over time.
Like that reflection. If people ignore you now, let them. Their time will come. That's pure observation of life's long game, isn't it? Watching consequences play out.
And the point about harsh truths from honest people being hard to swallow, making them disliked.
That's a direct observation of human nature. We often resist uncomfortable honesty. Explains why being straightforward can be unpopular.
The note that worrying about things you can't change achieves nothing for big problems. That's classic wisdom learned only through, well, pointless worrying.
Exactly. It's about recognizing limits, redirecting energy. A lesson hard times teach better than any school could. These notes feel like that kind of learning.
Distilled lessons from living, proving that difficult times really do teach lessons that no school can.
There's even that incredibly stark, maybe cynical observation comparing animal loyalty to human potential for betrayal.
Oh, right. Even animals are loyal when fed, while humans can be traitors despite love.
It's challenging, maybe jaded, but it's a comparison drawn from observing relationships, contrasting simple loyalty with complex human failings. A tough lesson life can apparently teach.
So, how do these kinds of observations land with you? Do they resonate with your own experiences?
What big lessons, maybe hard ones, have you learned just by living through things or watching how stuff plays out?
And finally, the notes touch on money, and they seem to present slightly different takes on its importance.
Yeah, there's that very direct, almost blunt statement. Put all your strength into earning money because money is everything in this era.
Feels pragmatic, maybe a bit jaded, reflecting the pressures of today's world.
Could be, but then almost right next to it, there's money is not everything, but you need money for everything.
Okay, so they seem contradictory, but maybe they're not.
Maybe they're just capturing different facets of reality at the same time.
Like acknowledging the intense societal focus on wealth, the pressure, the feeling that it is everything for survival and opportunity now.
Right. And at the same time, acknowledging its practical necessity for almost everything in daily life.
While still holding that it doesn't cover the whole human experience. It's not the only thing that matters.
Exactly. It's not the sole everything, but you need it for almost everything, practically speaking. It's a nuanced view.
So how did these different angles on money, everything in this era versus needed for everything, but not the sum of everything, how do those influence your own views?
Yeah.
Your actions, your priorities?
We've definitely covered a lot of ground today, digging into these rich notes you shared.
Yeah, we really have. Explored the value of time, the need for effort now.
Navigated the tricky landscape of relationships and trust, all that caution.
Grappled with those paradoxes of honesty in a world that, well, doesn't always seem to reward it.
Highlighted building that crucial inner strength, self-reliance.
Discussed applying wisdom over raw emotion.
Reflected on lessons learned just from watching life and people.
And wrestled with those complementary, maybe contradictory views on money.
These were genuinely valuable insights to explore together.
They really were.
You know, one observation that seems to weave through a lot of this, it's this tension.
Tension between what?
Between focusing outward on external validation, relationships, wealth for happiness and security, versus the powerful recurring message that true strength, true peace, wisdom, maybe even happiness, it ultimately comes from within.
Built through resilience, self-reliance, discernment.
Exactly. That internal foundation seems key in these notes.
So what does this all mean?
Well, it means these notes offer a complex view, sometimes cynical, yeah, but ultimately pretty grounded perspective on getting through the world.
A lot to think about, definitely. We hope this deep dive gave you some new angles, maybe helped you recognize some of this in your own life.
And maybe consider how you might apply some of these insights as you navigate your own path.
Keep exploring, keep reflecting. and keep diving deep.